So I went ahead and did a bunch of the missions on the war table just to kind of go ahead and get those done and set some things up for when we eventually get to that point. One of the more important ones I wanted to do that it told me to make was this one.
Inquisitor?
The Arcanist has arrived?
You should see for yourself.
Hello there. Well, don't just stand there slack-jawed. Let's figure out what you need.
Hi, Dagna.
You're the magical advisor?
Oh, you're her. The Inquisitor. I'm Dagna. Arcanist Dagna. It's an honor, your worship. Is that it? The hand anchor mark? It's pretty. And the breach was pretty too, in a destroy everything sort of way.
I welcome you to the Inquisition, and look forward to your contribution.
Me too. I've heard some impossible things. I love impossible things. Those are the best to make, well, possible. I've looked at Harriet's devices. The precision is fantastic, but typical. Mundane. Old thinking.
Is what now?
No disrespect meant to the classical trades, but you need a new perspective. I've made adjustments. As long as I keep making them, you can craft just about anything. Almost safely.
Where does a dwarf go to study magical theory?
Get out. I asked myself that question for years. Turns out, not in Orzammar. I had to start at a circle. I had to fight to do it. Everyone said I couldn't. Everyone. I swept floors in libraries, traded runes for tomes. I met outsiders like me, new thinkers. If there's something to know about magic, I'll find it. There's no barriers to what magic can do, Inquisitor. No matter what they say.
What I find interesting about this is that this is another one of those choices that feels like it happens regardless of what we do. Because if I recall, and you guys can feel free to go back and check the footage in my alternate Origins playthrough of this series that we've been doing, I think because we did not get the circle back in order and got the Templars, that we had to tell her that she couldn't go to the circle for study because Irving wasn't there anymore. The Templars were in control, and they were like, no. Gregor was like, no, I'm not going to have a dwarf come here. But it looks like she did it anyway. So she'll get to this point regardless of our choice in Origins. And it kind of takes away less significance from that interaction Origins. But then again, remember, Origins was made without the idea that it was ever going to have any kind of continuation or sequel. That's why Liliana is here, even if you kill her.
You were quick to join the Inquisition. Is there something you want?
How could I waste a chance to get close to you? And Corypheus? My goodness. And actual physical rifts in the Vale? Also, dwarves? We don't dream. So, when mages talk about it, I can only, well, dream what it would be like. So there's that, and all the things you'll probably find, and what I'll get to make. The rules are different here. Plus, you're paying me a lot. Like, wow, so much.
Now, I want to take a moment to point out, did you guys listen to the enthusiasm in her voice when she was talking about, getting to be part of the Inquisition, but also deal with us personally, as well as our anchor, and Corypheus, and the rifts, and how she sounded so excited about getting to actually deal with all that stuff, right? I want you to remember that when we then later on go talk to Sarah. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
What qualifies you to be an Arcanist?
I took the title because I'm a magical researcher, philosopher, and master of practical application. And I like it. I can't actually do magic because I'm a dwarf, but that also means no risk of possession. Safer than a mage. It means that every skill I have, I've learned through reason and understanding. Coming from the Smith caste, I know the value of mastering a craft. Did you know dwarves invented enchanting? Probably.
What is it you do, exactly?
I was born to the forge. That's literal in the Smith caste. So the hammer and tongue, that's like a heartbeat. But you've a man for that already, and a good one. I'm here because of my passion for magic. Magical study, magical theory, magical enchantment, and through it, the manipulation of masterworks. I studied it all with an objective eye. No secrets, no fears. That lets me apply principles like no other. Maybe one other, but I don't have that wonky of a mind, so I still kind of win.
I'm trying to remember who she's referring to when she says that.
You have the ability to make exceptional weapons and armor. Masterworks.
There's an art to the forge, as well as enchanting. You need an ear for it. And hands. Eyes, too. Nothing bad to say about Herod on that front. He's wonderful. But there's this little more needed. With the right bits, an edge can be more than an edge. Armor can do more than protect. A hue can be just a bit brighter. In short, smithing can be more. In short.
What's the story with enchanting?
Lyrium is the heart. In certain rational patterns, it beats like something alive. That's how I see it. So, a mage can make your weapons do things, but with the right runes, the right rarities, your toys become wonders. It's the one thing mages can't do. Drives them mad. Literally. Dwarves are resistant, so it doesn't affect us. Mostly.
Another time, Techno.
Of course. Bring me what you want made, and I'll make sure it goes just right.
Right, well that stuff I can go ahead and mess around with later. There's a lot of off-camera stuff that I need to do. Stuff that doesn't need to bore you guys. Actually, no, never mind. Like I said, some of that stuff is just boring off-camera stuff. I guess we'll go ahead and, since we're here, we'll go ahead and talk to Josephine.
I've made some inquiries into the Imperial Court. The sooner we deal with the threats to the Empress, the better. The political situation in the Empire is dangerously unstable. It will complicate matters.
Everything in the Empire complicates matters. It's the Orlesian national pastime.
Turn your nose up at the grand game if you like, Commander, but we play for the higher stakes, and to the death.
The Court's disapproval can be as great a threat as the Venatori. We must be vigilant to avert disaster.
Exactly what do you mean? How is it more dangerous than usual?
The Empress is in the middle of a civil war. Her cousin, Grand Duke Gaspard, seeks to take her throne by force. Leliana reports that a group of elves has been sabotaging both armies, drawing out the hostilities. Orlais holds Tevinter at bay. All of Tedas could be lost if the Empire falls to Corypheus. Celine is holding peace talks under the auspices of a grand masquerade. Every power in Orlais will be there. It's the perfect place for an assassin to hide.
A grand masquerade? I need to go shopping.
We don't have enough sway with the court to arrange an invitation. Perhaps a few more alliances.
Or soldiers.
We need a greater presence in Orlais. And soon. Inquisitor, I was just inspecting our new headquarters. Foundation cracks, nesting animals, and miles from any centers of civilization. The staff must make it presentable if we're to receive any visitors of distinction.
It certainly wouldn't do for the Inquisition to appear overly shabby.
We've only just now convinced everyone we are precisely what Thedas requires. The Templars came far to fight with us. They need to feel secure here.
After that battle with Corypheus, how could anyone not feel perfectly safe?
I can't stop dwelling on the day he attacked our camp. Do you know who first leapt to arms? Our workers. They were so proud of our cause. Corypheus simply cut them down. So much screaming after that first blast of fire. So many people turned to ash.
We lost far too many good people to that monster.
I'm sure they'll find rest with the Maker. Well, before I return to my duties, allow me to congratulate you on your appointment as Inquisitor, my lady. I will now bring diplomatic issues to your attention, and I'm more than happy to help with any situations that arise.
I'd be delighted if you could conjure up a marble bath within the next hour.
I'll attempt to add that to the list.
We'll eventually make our way to where Hawk is, but like I said, we have some people to talk to here.
So much room for whatever was here.
Hello.
I need to know more about Corypheus.
We spoke of this on our travels to Skyhawk. What more can I tell you? Cassandra and Varric seem more familiar with their adversary.
Oh, I'll take advice from just about anyone right now.
I'm flattered. I claim no secret wisdom, but I will guess as best I can.
What can you tell me about the source of Corypheus's power?
According to the law, the ancient Magistars of Tevinter received guidance from the old gods. Corypheus commands a false archdemon, a corrupted old god. This suggests he no longer sees himself as their minion. Some of his unique power comes from the corruption of the Blight. The rest may come from the orb he carries.
I would like to know more about the orb he carries.
As I said, that must be the means by which he created the breach. I suspect the blast that destroyed the Conclave was more accident than anything. The result of unlocking power that had sought release for ages. What I cannot understand is how he managed to survive such an explosion.
You said that you believe the orb is elven.
I never would have believed a Tevinter mage could unlock such a powerful relic. It clearly enhances his abilities, giving him access to power he should never have known.
Like the power to control the archdemon.
Indirectly, one assumes. Nothing in any law connects my people to the old god dragons who became archdemons.
What do you think Corypheus will do next?
You shamed him when you destroyed Haven. Spoiled his glorious victory. It would be worse to acknowledge that you had done so. He must continue on his course or show weakness. He will return to his plans to throw Olay into chaos, and then conquer it for Tevinter.
You're sure that's what he'll do?
As certain as is possible. Assuming I can plausibly predict a man who seeks to rise to godhood.
And can you?
The key is understanding this. No real god need prove himself. Anyone who tries is mad or lying. His deception will undo him, as it has done countless fools before.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Ah, the Veil. Lots of books. Can't interact with those, it seems.
Brilliant, isn't it? One moment you're trying to restore order in a world gone mad. That should be enough for anyone to handle, yes? Then, out of nowhere, an archdemon appears and kicks you in the head. What? You thought this would be easy? No, I was just hoping you wouldn't crush our village like an anthill. Sorry about that. Archdemons like to crush, you know. Can't be helped. Am I speaking too quickly for you?
I'm actually debating something at the moment because I did mention how there was a mod I set up where you could actually experience the Dorian romance if you wanted to play, like, say, a straight female character, that you can actually go ahead and do that. Now, I've said that we're going to commit to the Cullen romance, but I'm not going to lie, I'm actually kind of entertained by the idea of what if... I mean, because I did mention how if you don't romance Dorian, he can get into romance with Iron Bull. So, what if he romanced a female Kunari instead? Now, I know that's... I talked about this before. There's even, like, a homosexual in the comment section of the mod page that said he is entirely okay with the idea of this mod because he wants other people to be able to experience the Dorian romance as well, like he did. So, just putting that out there. This is not, this is not like other people are, like, hating the idea of this. Maybe I'll check it out on my own time. I'm not, I will say, like, even you can flirt with multiple people, but you're not necessarily committing. I am also a little curious whether or not he, how it works, like, in terms of experimentation and in terms of the voice lines, because sometimes voice lines will be muted if you're trying out these kind of mods. I experienced this when I was actually experimenting with a male writer in Andromeda flirting with Suvi, and her voice lines were muted because the mod couldn't obviously create new voice lines unless they use those, well, that tech to make like kind of an android voice and such. But you know what? We'll just go ahead and stick, we won't flirt with him, and we'll just go ahead and stick with the Cullen romance. We'll just be friendly with Dorian.
You don't need to worry about me. I can keep up.
Yes, I noticed that.
Did you now?
Certainly. If you were a slack-jawed yokel, you'd already be dead. I always assumed the Elder One behind the Venatori was a Magister. But this is something else completely. In Tevinter, they say the Chantry's tales of Magisters starting the Blight are just that. Tales. But here we are. One of those very Magisters, a dark spawn.
Who does the Imperium say started the Blight?
You know how it is. Not us. They say Darkspawn were always there. Magisters and the Blight aren't even related. Is that a surprise? No one wants to admit they shit the bed. But if Corypheus is one of the Magisters who entered the Black City and he's Darkspawn, what other explanation is there?
We only know what Corypheus claims to be.
True. He might be a convincing liar, or delusional, or insane. But how many delusional maniacs are going to have that knowledge? He broke open the Fade. I knew what I was taught couldn't be the whole truth, but I assumed there had to be a kernel of it, somewhere. But no. It was us all along. We destroyed the world.
This is one of the things I really love about Dorian's voice actor. You can really tell when he... I mean, obviously he's got the sarcastic, witty, funny side down, but you know what I also like? I like it when you can tell that he's upset or something's bothering him. Or, like, it just, like, gets to him. And you can just tell when he said, but no, it was us all along. You can tell that this is bothering him. He didn't want to truly believe that his country and his kinfolk were responsible for it all. And he just sounds upset that it seems like it really is a possible truth.
You didn't do anything. Those men did. 1,000 years ago.
True, except that one of them is up and walking around right now. Not to mention I have idiot countrymen who would happily follow him down that path again. I have no intention of letting Corypheus win. Not without someone from Tevinter standing against him. It would have been nice if you'd helped stop Alexius. But that's not how things went. So be it. If it's all the same to you, I'd like to stay and help the Inquisition.
You'd really fight your own countrymen.
Southerners like to think of the Imperium as nothing but slavers and cultists. Why not? That's all you see. But it's not true. Some Tevinters are not only handsome and well-dressed, but rather put off by all that rot. So, I'll happily kill cultists or anyone who thinks a Darkspawn god is the way of the future.
And that's why I like Dorian's character being here, because, yeah, it's the first time we've had someone from Tevinter tell us that. That he's like, look, this is what you see, because that's all you see. But believe it or not, there are people in my country that, you know, he said, well, they're handsome-looking and well-dressed, but they actually detest all that. What we have seen from people from Tevinter in terms of the slavers and such is not all that there is when it comes to Tevinter, and Dorian makes that abundantly clear.
What if this is a ruse? Venatori could have captured you, sent you here.
Rather elaborate, considering they'd need to have assumed you'd escape Haven. But I am the ideal spy. Charming, clever, perfect teeth and hair. It all fits. How about this? Let me help, and you can hang me later, if you wish. I look good in rope.
We can use all the help we can get.
No one will thank me, whatever happens. No one will thank you, either. You know that, yes?
That attitude must be why they kicked you out of the Imperium.
They didn't kick me out? Well, only because they never got around to it. Eventually, they might have. All I know is this. Corypheus needs to be stopped. Men like him ruined my homeland. I won't stand by and let him ruin the world. Oh, and congratulations on that whole leading the Inquisition thing, by the way. Roderick, that Chantry fellow who led us through the mountain from Haven. You know he died, I assume. Got us as far as the camp, and then that was it.
Oh, that's too bad.
I helped him walk. He talked about you quite a bit. He just needed to be sure you were Andraste's chosen. He was terrified of what it meant, if it were true. But in the end, he believed. He asked me to tell you he was sorry.
Thank you for telling me about that.
I thought it was important. Anyway, we can talk about something else if you'd rather.
I'd like to ask you about Tevinter.
Ah, yes. Everyone outside the Imperium always seems quite fascinated by it. Probably why they come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. That's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
I love his sense of humor. But yes, Dorian, we have 1,000 questions because we're fascinated by it because, well, we're wondering if it's all that bad, and we want to know if it's actually true or if there's actually more to Tevinter than we think, as in, is there any good in Tevinter? Because from the outside, it looks like a horrible place. An absolutely terrible, horrible place. So could you please clarify?
Corypheus is a figure out of Tevinter history. He was a magister.
Yes, but that was a different time. The Imperium's power was at its peak then. The Civil War had ended, the Magisterium was united, its armies scooping up bits of Thedas like candy. The Magisters who entered the Black City, it was a demonstration of how exceptional Tevinter had become.
But who were they?
No one knows. There's no record of a Magister named Corypheus. All this happened 1,400 years ago, before the Blight nearly wiped us out. There are no records. Today, people half believe it's all just a story. That's what I believed.
We have evidence the story is very much real.
But not who Corypheus is, if he even remembers. There used to be families who claimed some of those Magisters as their own. That stopped when the Chantry appeared. Then it was shameful, and the families distanced themselves from the tale. All we know is that some men and women entered the Black City looking for the old gods. What did they find? According to Corypheus, nothing. And only he could tell us more.
I have seen the throne of the gods, and it was empty. So here's the big one.
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery, It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah, that is true.
And? Did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
Well, we don't have slaves in the South.
In the south, you have alienages, slums, both human and elven. The desperate have no way out. Back home, a poor man can sell himself. As a slave, he could have a position of respect, comfort, and could even support a family. Some slaves are treated poorly, it's true. But do you honestly think inescapable poverty is better?
You know, the way he describes about how a slave could actually be able to work and be respected and treated well and be able to support a family, that actually sounds more to me like what we've talked about before. I talked about this back in Dragon Age 2 when we had the Fenris quest where we ran to the girl who was a little brainwashed into being a slave to the point where Hawk offered her to come to her house, and Fenris accused her of taking a slave. But then Hawk clarified, no, I gave her a job. That's different. And that's what he makes it sound like, that there are not all slaves in Tevinter, but rather some of the slaves are actually more so servants, but like paid servants, like it's their job, because like he said, someone who's in poverty could actually sell himself to be a servant so that he could be able to have a job, to have a roof over his head, to be able to provide for a family if he has one. And the more I think about it, is that really slavery at that point? Or is that just somebody who, has a job, like a butler or a maid? Are they slaves? Or is that just simply their job that they work to help provide for their family or to keep a roof over their heads or put food on the table? I'm not trying to necessarily justify the slavery thing. What I'm saying is that it seems that there is more complexity to this. That yes, he does admit, yes, there are some slaves who are treated poorly. It is true. They're more so treated like slaves than actual like servants or people. But that's not always the case.
Is that what you call it? Treated poorly?
Abuse heaped upon those without power isn't limited to Tevinter, my friend. I don't know what it's like to be a slave, true. I never thought about it until I saw how different it was here. But I suspect you don't know either. Nor should you believe that every tale of Tevinter excess is the norm.
And that is also a very important little bit right there. To not believe that everything we hear about Tevinter, excess is the norm.
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all?
That's what any Magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion, too. Of course, what people call blood magic here, and what we consider blood magic, are two different things.
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. Real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
You'd think the Templars would object.
I imagine they did, long ago. Once, their investigations might have been sincere. Then their balls were cut off. Too inconvenient. Nowadays, only the friendless are accused. And most of them probably innocent.
There must be some mages who oppose this.
Of course. I do. And I'm not entirely alone. Occasionally, there'll be a Magister who makes noise, and then the reform talk begins. All very patriotic. Meanwhile, that Magister will be quietly shunned. Chances are, surprise, it's learned he was a Maleficar all along. Most learn to keep quiet. Me? I enjoy the allure of pariahhood.
It seems strange that an entire empire would be ruled by mages.
Strange?
Why are you less qualified to rule than some tart with a fancy crown? Actually, the fiction in the Imperium is that mages don't rule. The Magisterium rules. That magisters are all mages is considered a convenient technicality.
What is the Magisterium, exactly?
The upper house of the Imperial Senate, and the only part worth having a seat on. Those seats are split among the circles of Magi, the Chantry, and the major families. All mages now. It's odd that outside the Imperium, you use Magister like it applies to every Tevinter mage.
If you're not a Magister, then what are you called? No special title?
I'm an Altus, which is almost as good as a Magister, depending on who you ask.
I've never heard of an Altus.
Upper class. Those families who trace descent from the Dreamers, the first prophets of the old gods. If you're a mage and you're not Altus, then you're later. Lower class. If you're not a mage at all, you're Soperati. That's everyone else. We do love our fancy words.
Clearly.
If it's a fiction, that means mages do rule then.
Yes and no. Let me put it this way. Mages do rule, but not all mages are equal. If you're not from the right family, chances are you don't rule anything. Maybe you're even a slave. The idea that anyone could be a mage, however, keeps the masses placated.
Can anyone be a mage?
Technically, the potential runs mostly in bloodlines, but it's been known to happen. More importantly, commoners believe it can. Tevinter legend is chock full of mage heroes from humble origins. So they hold out hope. Someday my son or my son's son will be a mage. Someday. Poor sods don't realize that means he'll be a quaestor at the arse end of the 100 pillars, at best.
Being a quaestor isn't a good thing?
I imagine the average non-mage likes to think so. Counting numbers and shuffling papers all day is better than many occupations after all. If you're a second-class citizen among a pack of piranha, however, your outlook changes.
This is why I keep talking about how I loved that we got to have these conversations with Dorian, because where else have we been able to get this much in-depth information about Tevinter than these talks with Dorian?
I thought the Archon ruled over the Imperium.
Well, yes. Technically, he can overrule laws passed by the Magisterium, but that never happens. Even so, he gets to appoint new Magisters, which means all the families vie madly for his favor. Thus, the Archon gets invited to all the parties. The truest path to Tevinter influence, let me tell you.
Let me ask you something else.
Of course.
There's an Imperial Chantry, isn't there? With its own divine.
You people aren't supposed to talk about the Black Divine, are you? If you mention him outside the Imperium, people make that face. Like you're urinating in public. But yes, we do have the Chantry, or a version of it. Night and day comparing it to yours.
Do you really call him the Black Divine?
We don't call him that, oh no. In the Imperium, he's the true Divine. The woman sitting on the Sunburst throne is some backwater pretender. It all stems from a disagreement over Andraste. Marvelous, isn't it?
Why would they disagree over Andraste?
It's not my field of expertise, but the Imperium believes Andraste was a mortal woman, a mage. Down south, they say, no, she's the bride of the Maker, ascended to his side, divine provenance, a blah, blah, blah. We feel better believing Andraste was one of us. Makes executing her less damning, you see. So we elected a man as divine, the South declared war, and we've been feuding cousins ever since.
I love the way he described that whole thing. That was wonderful. This is why, again, I love Dorian as a character, and I love his voice actor. The way his actor is delivering all this is just wonderful.
So, the Imperial Divine is always a man?
All the better to distinguish him from that other one, yes. Don't think there aren't a number of female magisters who bristle at that. Why can't they be divine after all? Same reason you never see a man on the Sunburst throne. Because that's how it's always been done. Excellent reasoning.
Yes. Because it's tradition. Oh, that's such a great reason.
Do you consider yourself Andrastian?
The big question. It might surprise you that I do consider myself Andrastian. I simply do not believe in the Chantry. It is a relic, whether back home or here in the south. Something from a bygone age desperately clinging to relevance. It's not an opinion that makes me popular.
Yeah, that goes into the discussion about the difference between being a believer and being a follower in the organization. You know, the difference between believing in a set of beliefs and principles and... How do I put this? I'm trying to figure out how to word this without saying it the wrong way. But I hope you get what I'm getting at, which is that there's a difference between being a believer and following an organization. You know, like, I'm trying to not really delve into this because this can get into real world stuff, which I'm trying to avoid. But I know somebody that talks about, like, this was something that was actually talked about in Diablo when it came to the establishment of the Zakarun faith, was that the guy who was preaching the ideas that it was based off of, that's what all that he was trying to do was talk about just being a good person. And then it was somebody else who decided, let's organize this. And they decided to turn these set of beliefs into a religion and then a church. And you get what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what Dorian is saying, is that he may be a believer, but he's not really that fond of, say, you know, following the organizations that push it forward or such. You know, I think you guys may get what I'm trying to say here, what he's also trying to say.
I'm not surprised. It's not an opinion you should share.
You did ask, if you recall. I'll say this. I may not believe in the Chantry, but I believe in you.
In me?
That the Maker sent you, whether through Andraste or fate. Cassandra is not wrong. You are what we needed most at the moment we needed it. That's what they will say in ages to come.
You don't seem like the religious sort, to be honest.
If you define religious as sitting in a chantry and listening to a blithering hen tell you how to live, then no. If you define it as believing in the possibility that something larger than yourself exists, then yes, by all means. The world is bigger than I, even bigger than you. It laughs at all the things we think we know. The Maker doesn't need me to believe, but I do. The thought of no one at all watching out for us is too frightening.
I love the way he put that. That whole thing he just said, I love the way he put that. You know, I'm not going to go too much into my own personal beliefs in real life, but just kind of the way he kind of outlined that, I was like, wow, I really like the way he put that into words.
Is the Imperial Chantry so different from ours?
Not in theory. The main difference is in the whole magic is meant to serve man, not rule over him business. Back home, ruling the unwashed masses is serving them, for the good of the Imperium. Perhaps it started with good intentions, but these days it's academic. The circles are in command.
There are circles of magi in the Imperium?
We don't have dismal little mage prisons, if that's what you mean. They're academies, prestigious ones. We have Templars as well, but they don't cancel spells or whatever your Templars do. They're soldiers.
They don't use lyrium?
Ha! As if there'd be any left for them. They watch for abuse of magic, yes, but only those who are weak or who fall out of favor get dealt with. Mostly they enforce their magisterium's edicts. The Chantry smiles and nods from the sidelines.
Let me ask you something else.
So many questions.
I'm wondering if the Imperium would be a useful ally.
I'd think you'd be more concerned whether or not they'd support the Venatori. They won't, of course. At least, not officially. They'll disavow all knowledge of dangerous cultists. Secretly, many Magisters will rejoice at the idea. And if the South falls to chaos in the meantime, all the better.
It would be in the Imperium's best interest to help. Surely it could use allies.
I think the Imperium gave up on the idea of allies a long time ago. We've been fighting the Qunari for what, 200 years off and on? It's a point of pride that we go it alone. They'll sneer at the South behind their silk handkerchiefs and say, "You've had it easy for far too long." Let's not forget that the Inquisition seems to be an arm of the Orlesian Chantry. Anathema so far as they're concerned.
Schnoff, schnoff.
We're not part of the Chantry. The Chantry opposed the Inquisition's formation.
You think that matters? Don't be silly. The Herald of Andraste. Your very title smacks of the Southern Chantry. You may as well be a heathen. I think they're far more frightened what you'll do if you succeed.
That's all I wanted to know.
Fair enough.
It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Beyond my being a mage from Tevinter, you mean?
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well-dressed, which is obvious to anyone.
I'm well aware of your finer qualities. Believe me.
Of course I believe you. The moment I saw you, I thought, there's a man who knows quality.
See? Okay, right there. That was the test.
Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams. Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless to say, my family was not happy with my choices.
So, I chose it because I was kind of curious about what would be said, and yep, that was the test. They haven't changed the voice lines. Now, I know some people, or rather some modders in other games, that they have actually tried to manipulate the voice lines where the characters will say something different. So rather than, let's say, if this was a modder who was able to change the voice line from him saying man to woman, then it could work a little better in that regard. But I imagine that's not something they've been able to get around to or figure out how to pull it off. I'm not sure if there is a way to pull it off, but it is something I have noticed in some other mods for other games as well.
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
Because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see?
I'm getting the impression that you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Qunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
It just seems so much of what you say about the Imperium is entirely negative.
It might sound that way. For all our faults, my people have many virtues. We are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began, remember? We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages. And despite appearances, we care. Deeply. About everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. If I truly believed my homeland was beyond all hope, I wouldn't miss it so much.
What did you mean by generations of careful breeding?
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote the rest. My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Archon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters, I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some Magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
I should go.
As you wish.
So yeah, a huge source of information regarding Tevinter. Schmoobles.
Sister Leliana will want access to the birds. Get the cages up.
So many ravens here, you'd think this was a house in Game of Thrones.
I'm sorry.
So am I.
The names of those we lost. You must blame me for this.
We all saw who attacked us. We know exactly who to blame.
I keep wondering if I could have done something different. When the first of my lookouts went missing, I pulled the rest back, awaiting more information. If they'd stayed in the field, they could have bought us more time. I was afraid to lose my agents. And instead, we lost Haven.
More likely, they would have stayed out there, died, and we would have lost Haven anyway.
You don't know that. Their lives could have bought Haven a small chance. My people know their duty. They know the risks. They understand that the Inquisition may call upon them to give their lives.
Our people aren't tools to be used and discarded. Your instincts were right. Their lives matter.
Can we afford such sentimentality? What if Corypheus...
We are better than Corypheus.
Our agents have encountered more followers of Corypheus, these so-called Venatori. Their leader, Calpurnia, has them searching elven ruins. For what, I do not know. I propose we stop the Venatori before they find what they seek.
Do you know anything about Calpurnia?
Only that Calpurnia is a name from ancient Tevinter legend. An unusual one. She was a priestess of Dumat, foster mother to the founder of the Imperium. A name like that is meant to assure the Venatori they follow in the footsteps of legends. We must prove them wrong.
I'm pleased to see my spy master is on top of the matter.
I try. These Venatori have been shadowing a merchant called Vicinius on Calpurnia's orders. They've investigated his finances, surveyed his warehouses. I propose that you meet with Vicinius. Flatter him. Find out what he knows of Calpurnia.
Vicinius sounds like a Tevinter name.
Born in Tallow. Although he claims to be from Virantium, he sells rare oils and amber, and prefers red wine to white.
What side of the bed does he sleep on?
He's unremarkable. I cannot think why Calpurnia would care.
What if Vicinius is as much in the dark as we are?
It never hurts to eliminate an avenue of inquiry. And we should tread lightly with the Venatori. They have contacts and spies, just as we do. The sooner you speak with Vicinius, the better.
We need him to open up about these bloodthirsty cultists. I'll bring wine.
Vicinius could be a useful ally. Merchants travel, and they love gossip as much as coin. I'll make arrangements for you to visit his summer home in Val Royeaux. Hopefully, your attention should be enough to pique his interest. We'll have Calpurnia's secrets yet. I'm listening.
The Divine's death hit you hard. How have you been feeling?
Oh, you are referring to my outburst in Haven. I am much better now. Justinia was such a dear friend, and there were so many things going wrong.
Sometimes it's best to talk these things out.
I was there when the hero Ferelden defeated the Archdemon. We won the day, and I thought the Maker smiled on me. When the Divine requested my help, I went to her. I owed her that much. I sacrificed so much to do the Maker's work. But now, Justinia is dead. I was angry. I felt betrayed. But I shouldn't have let my emotions get the better of me. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. You were grieving and upset. I understand.
Thank you. Now enough of this. Let us think more pleasant thoughts.
I'll leave you to your work.
Oh, can't do that yet. I'm fine. Oh, that's right. We can't go there yet. Because this place is still a mess.
Maker, you're a mess. Let me have a look at you. Are you all right, my dear? Were you hurt? You look dreadful.
You should have seen me an hour ago.
We should do something about this dirt. We don't need you frightening the faithful. Let's keep up appearances. You've handled this crisis competently, saving as many lives as you did. But the enemy struck a serious blow against you and the Inquisition. We must recognize that. You must.
You're wrong. We now have a better location, and far more people at our disposal. This couldn't have worked out better if I'd planned it.
Yet we can hardly rely upon the whims of Providence to give us all our victories. This defeat may have turned to our advantage, but it will not last long. Our enemy advances, Inquisitor. We must not sit idly by. Act first and teach them to fear us. I think you know what needs to be done, my dear.
Did you need something, darling?
Alright, let's talk to Sarah.
So, Inquisitor. It is Inquisitor now, right? Remember that war we talked about stopping? Full of little baddies I can stick with little arrows. That's not a friggin' archdemon, is it? Andraste, what did I step in?
Maybe nobody saw this coming, but you knew how I got the job.
I know what people said, but people believe all sorts of shite when they're scared. Swear at a farmer and you've cursed his crops. Spill the salt and you're dead by dawn. Dance through town in a goat's head and children people never had go missing.
You're confusing me now. What are you getting at?
Archdemons, real enough, fine. But if that Coryphi thing is true, the Magisters really cracked the Black City. It's a hazy dream, right? I mean, if it's real, then the seat of the Maker? Real thing. A seat needs a butt, so the Maker? Real thing. Fairy stories about the start and end of the world? Real things. It's too far, innit? I just want to plug the Skyhole rubbish so I can go play.
That line, that one line right there, has always just irritated me about Sarah. I just want to plug up the Skyhole rubbish just so I can go play. We're talking about trying to stop Corypheus from basically destroying the world, and you're like, oh, I just want to go play. This is why I said compare how she's looking at this compared to how Dagna was looking at this. Now, Dagna wasn't exactly talking about that stuff, but that's actually an attitude that I was like, I'm very pleasant that's how you're looking at this and feeling about this. This attitude just irritates me.
You joined to help the little people caught up in this. But do you believe or not?
In Andraste? Of course.
But you doubt what you're seeing and hearing?
It can't be true. Even fanatics don't want to be this right. Look, I have arrows. I can make this Corypheus believe in those. Good enough? Please be good enough.
I'm fighting Magisters. I need you aiming higher than simple selfishness.
Lumpy wants to be a god, and you glow or something. I just want to fix things so I don't have to think about what's real or not. High enough, my lady.
Just be useful. Ugh, the people I have to work with.
I know, right? Good luck with this lot. But I'll be here. Now, where's food?
I didn't necessarily want to be that harsh, but only a few limited options there, so...
Your wish is something, something.
I'll be back if I need you.
So, this is Skyhold. Come, let's walk the ramparts. I want to examine our fortifications. We'll be able to see Corypheus coming from miles away.
He's not going to get the better of us again.
We lost good soldiers that day, loyal men and women. Let him come. I swear I'll take the Twister bastard down, even if I have to die to do it.
Watch that this enthusiasm of yours doesn't get you killed.
I wouldn't be the first to die in your service. The people flock to your banner, eager to fight for the Herald of Andraste. Their faith is a leash, and your Inquisition has taken hold of it. Tell me honestly, are you what they say you are? Andraste's chosen?
There's so little I remember. What if they're right?
Does it even matter? Don't you see what you are to them? Without you, they'd be consumed by despair. We all would. They need you to be Andraste's messenger. It gives them hope. The truth doesn't matter. Listen to me talk. Your time is valuable and I've wasted enough of it.
Harding?
Scout Harding,
Your worship,
what's been going on?
Sister Liliana glanced at me today. I think she's gonna have me killed.
I have to go.
Inquisitor?
We'll talk to Blackwall more
Nothing
later.
right now. Perhaps in a bit.
Thank you for Haven and your efforts at Therenfall. I am committed to serve your worship.
Bull?
Inquisitor, huh? Well, you've got the fortress for it. Speaking of which, when you've got a second, there's something I want to show you.
We'll do that in a second. Let's talk to Cassandra first real quick.
Good book?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm a little surprised that we're already getting this one.
Yes, because I suddenly went blind.
Oh, that. Just reports from Commander Cullen.
You're an excellent liar.
It's of no interest to you, I'm certain. It's a book.
I can see that.
It's one of Varric's tales. Swords and Shields. The latest chapter.
The latest chapter? Meaning, you've read them all?
Not since this all began. We've been busy.
She's read this one 3 times.
You! I told you to stop spying!
You read it out loud to me. I don't like the captain either.
I never did that. It's literature. Smutty literature. Whatever you do, don't tell Varric.
Me? No, I would never.
They're terrible. And magnificent. And this one ends in a cliffhanger. I know Varric is working on the next. He must be. Pretend you don't know this about me.
This was one of my favorite parts of this entire game, honestly.
Have you met this friend of Varric's, Inquisitor?
Not yet, no.
It had better not be who I think it is. I will wring that little bastard's neck.
Why? Who do you think it is?
Someone Varric claimed he could not contact. Someone the Inquisition, indeed all of Thedas, desperately needed. I'll reserve judgment until I know for certain. No need to have that rogue screaming persecution yet again.
That's enough for now.
Another time, then.
I'll talk more about that when we get to that scene.
What can I do for you?
What did you want me to come see?
Here, come on. I'll show you.
Why am I dressed like this?
You'll see. Come on. It'll be worth your time, I promise. Evening. Iron Bull. My merc band just joined up.
Tanner. I'm from Jader. Well, near Jader.
Mira. I was guard captain for Lady Pendel. Signed on after shit blew up at the Conclave. Share a drink? Who's your friend?
This is Grim. She doesn't talk much. So, you ready to kill some demons? Or Venatori? Or whatever that Corypheus asshole is?
This isn't just about killing. We're helping the Inquisitor save the world and build the next empire.
Well, long as I get paid, I'm happy. That's why I signed up.
I just couldn't spend my whole life on a farm. Needed to live a little, you know.
What about you, Mira? Why'd you join up? I thought you were serving some noble.
I saw what happened at Haven. The Inquisitor staring down that monster and his archdemon. I don't think the chant of light as much as I should. But you can't see something like that and not believe.
Well, Grim and I should find our tents. Thanks for the drink. I know every soldier under my command. You don't have that option, but a few faces might help.
By the way, this is one of my favorite interactions we get with Iron Bull. One of the things that I really like about Iron Bull. Oh, hey, Harding.
You made it sound like you didn't like the Inquisition.
People don't always tell the truth when you're polite. You've got to poke them a bit.
But those two soldiers might think you're an asshole.
So?
I knew some of the soldiers felt like that. But to actually hear it...
It's hard to be just an idea sometimes. That's all you are to most of them. It's why you could stand right in front of them without being recognized. You've got a good army coming along. Remember that, no matter what comes next. How's it going?
See you later, Bull.
Nice talking with you, boss.
All right. There's not much else I can do until this place gets refurbished. Oops. Did not mean to do that. Which, one of the ways to trigger that is to basically leave on the map and go somewhere else, which I probably want to go to Val Royeaux just to go to the shops, since they now have new stuff for our thrones. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and cut it off here. It's been an hour. When we return, we will be getting to chat with an old friend. Stay tuned.